Welcome to another edition of Globespan 24/7. I am your host this evening, Richard Rambarran, and it gives me great pleasure to be able to speak with two esteemed gentlemen who are no stranger to the business community. One, of course, is a returning guest, and he has been on the program a few times with myself and some other moderators, Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, Chief Executive Officer and Chief Investment Officer of Guyana. So CEO of Go Invest and Chief Investment Officer for Guyana. Peter, welcome to the program. Thank you once again for accepting an invitation to come onto Globespan.
Thank you, Richard.
The second person that I have with me this evening is, I think this is his maiden journey to Globespan 24/7. It's Captain Gerald Gouveia Jr., who is at this time the Senior Vice President of the GCCI. He is, of course, also a businessman involved in several ventures in Guyana, and he also serves as the President for the Aircraft Owners Association of Guyana. So a man wearing many hats who we would like to welcome, give a warm Globespan welcome to this evening and thank him for his presence. Jerry, thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Thanks for having me. Peter,
thank you. Yes. So this evening we'll be speaking a little bit about investment and business development as it relates to Guyana. Now, the subtitle, of course, is Dubai and Beyond, coming off of the heels of what has been a very publicized and I must say a very well represented trip to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, of course, in the eastern part of the world. So, gentlemen, this evening, I want us to shine a bit of light on the trip. I want us to explore a little bit about trade missions and why they are important, both within the context of the public sector investment in Guyana, and then what material or tangible benefits they accrue to the private sector. And I also want to explore some other elements of trade missions and private sector development and enterprise development. Now, I'm happy, of course, that we have two gentlemen here who are spanning both the public sector as well as the private sector, because I believe that that will provide our discussion this evening with a number of vantage points that are very important for the average listener who may not be involved in trade missions to understand better. So, Peter, I'll start here this evening with you. And of course, you will have persons who are onlooking in the Guyanese society and wondering, why are these guys going to Dubai? What it is about Dubai? You know, is it that they're going on some vacation? Is it that they're going to hang out? Do these guys want to just chill? Or is it something that we are seeing materializing? So, Peter, I want you to, from your perspective as CEO for Go Invest, educate the viewers and listeners as to, firstly, why Dubai, and then the purpose, of course, of going on these trips.
Thanks, Richard, and thanks, Jerry, my esteemed colleague there. Well, Dubai, the World Expo, it happens every few years, and Dubai actually won the submission to hold the World Expo in the UAE. And in the build-up, it was supposed to happen in 2020, and because of COVID, was pushed back to 2021. They had invited the Guyana government at the time to participate in the expo. And what was commendable is that the government of the UAE funded an entire pavilion in multi-million US dollars for Guyana to host, as a host country, to have their own pavilion. We were able to then demonstrate our export market, our investment opportunities, showcase Guyana to the world. And in the 3 weeks, and Jerry will tell you, whilst we were there, 3 weeks of the start of the expo, close to 770,000 people had visited the expo in Dubai. And so for Guyana, we had close to 500-600 people per day entering the pavilion. we were able then to demonstrate to the world that Guyana is here. We're open for business. We have a biodiversity. We have a great country that offers a lot of opportunities to the wider world. And I believe it was the right timing for Guyana delegation. What government, as government, we applauded is that we had, I think Jerry will correct me on the numbers, close to 50 plus private sector individuals that paid their own money to join us on a trip to look at the opportunities of the wider world, not just the Middle East, but really the wider world, because pavilions were there from Russia, from India, and other countries. So the private sector was able to view what are the broader opportunities across the world. And so I was excited to be part of that trip. And as we get into the program, we'll describe a little more of the details. But I think the expo goes for 6 months. It will end in March. So any visitor between now and March can go to Dubai, see the various countries and explore. And we're getting a lot of interest from the wider world, not just, again, UAE, through that expo at this point.
Yeah, thank you very much for that, Peter. And it's very interesting that you make mention of the interest that occurs at these expos, because for the viewer and listener who may perhaps be unable to make that immediate connection, it is very instrumental for the Guyanese economy, as well as the products which we have on offer as it relates to tourism, to be showcased in the international arena. Because of course there is the multiplier effect, or even in this case a ripple effect, where if one person comes and they visit, they'll of course tell 3 more, 5 more, and before you know it, you'll have niche markets being carved out, and that of course brings a very important benefit to the economy. So even if for nothing else, these expos and these missions are extraordinarily important for positioning our country in a very strategic way on the international scene. But of course, they are not just limited to improvements of the country's image, improving the marketing of the country, but there are also very tangible benefits that accrue from these types of activities. And I want Captain Gouveia this evening to shed some light on, for example, what were some of those as it relates to the business side. So Jerry, you can wear both your business hat as well as an official of the GCCI, and shed some light on what would have been some of the tangible outputs.
Sure. Well, so in short, the most tangible part is that everyone knows Guyana now. I remember growing up and visiting Canada and the US, or even sometimes in the Caribbean, and people have to clarify where you mean when you say Guyana. They're wondering if it's in Africa somewhere. That was not the case. We were the highlight of the show. For lack of a better word, that everywhere that you went, whether it was in Houston or even in Dubai a few weeks ago, people knew exactly where we were from, exactly what we were offering, and they were eager to learn more about the country. Being from the business side of it, it definitely gave us an opportunity to showcase what we've known all along, and that the Guyanese hospitality is almost second to none, and that the culture is so inviting and so inclusive that it makes people feel at home. So when we were in, for example, in Dubai, and they were serving certain types of foods, these are foods that we are accustomed to. We're accustomed, for example, eating with our hands when it came to using the naan bread and so on. So those were the kind of little nuances that our culture offers us when we get onto a global scale. From a business perspective, I must say I count myself very lucky to be part of the chamber. It definitely gave us an opportunity to engage, for example, with the Dubai Chamber of Commerce, and we had an exceptionally productive meeting with the executive of the Dubai Chamber, and the president of the Dubai Chamber is also the president of the International Chamber of Commerce. And from that interaction, as a very tangible outcome, is that we started the discussions on the trade office in Dubai, as well as joining the International Chamber of Commerce as representing Guyana on that scale. So I can say that people are eager to learn more about Guyana and engage with our businesses. They're very eager to learn more about our culture, but more so about the business opportunities. And I can tell you that the team, both from the government side, I know Peter, he did a lot of promotion on joint programs between international companies and local companies, promoting the public-private partnerships that we like to speak about here in Guyana. But these are the things that the international companies are looking for. They're looking for that cooperation between government and private sector, which we have showcased. And they're also looking for an eager and willing private sector to learn and partner with coming locally.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jerry. And you mentioned a very important point there, particularly as it relates to enterprise development and these missions that we've been fielding from the private sector overall. We would have seen at this mission that a joint venture would have been signed for some very sizable investments in Guyana. Jerry, how important are these missions? And here I'm extending the conversation beyond just Dubai. How important are these missions for garnering interest and even obtaining joint ventureships for the development of enterprise in Guyana?
I think that's the right question to ask, Richard. You know, these are crucial because even during COVID, it was so important to sit in a room, even virtually, with people and learn. It's something more about learning the culture. How do we interact together? So going on these type of missions, now that the COVID pandemic is becoming manageable on a global scale, we're able to now physically sit in a room with these international entities and enterprises. The joint venture that was signed whilst I was in Dubai, Peter and I were there at the signing, and I think that is it's monumental for the development here in Guyana. What they're doing is that they're bringing international technology to the Guyanese construction environment. And I doubt that would have been possible without them going on some sort of trade mission or going to Dubai and learning more about it. I can tell you that whilst we were there, the Dubai Chamber was very interested in taking their 260,000 members and linking them with the members here in Guyana, so that it becomes very crucial to make those connections as we're going forward. I can tell you from a joint venture perspective, to me, it is the only feasible way of promoting Guyanese businesses in the upcoming oil and gas market, but also in increasing our agriculture, tourism, manufacturing products here in Guyana and making us export ready or commercially viable on international scale. See, the thing with joint venture is that it allows us to rapidly upscale our capacity as well as our capital and our technical ability to meet international standards. And if you think about where our oil and gas industry started, in 2015, you know, the time from flash to bang is 6 years, and we are doing things that are unprecedented in the world. You know, it took Canada and Newfoundland almost 30 years to get to production. We're doing it in less than 6. And the only way for Guyanese entities to really become competitive on a world scale is to look for meaningful joint venture opportunities.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Jerry. Now, that becomes even more important when one examines, for example, what is to come with the local content legislation, because we hear this argument emanating from some corners in the public space that Guyanese don't have the capacity to undertake this, or Guyanese don't have the capacity to execute that particular task, because it would be claimed that we don't have experience. But as I've made the point time and over, and of course even Kaituur News has it being carried today, that there are other elements of business. There are other elements as it relates to executing a particular function. Now, there is, of course, a technical part of doing a particular task, but there's everything else that goes along with it. Administration, finance, business development, logistics, you know, essentially navigating the local environment. And that essentially is what, even if it is a complex technical task that a Guyanese will be knowledgeable about within the local landscape. Now, Peter, of course, you have been leading a number of delegations, and one which we have come off the heels of prior to the Dubai one. I mean, that was a fantastic one. And I don't know if we'll have something nearing the caliber of that, I mean, for the remainder of the year. But what I wanted to ask is, tracking back a little bit to maybe say August and the OTC, how important did you see the OTC mission being for investment in Guyana, as well as for the local private sector, at least from your vantage point in the investment office?
Yeah, Richard. One of go back slightly to Dubai and then get back to OTC.
Sure.
Our delegation was led by our president, and what was probably the most impressive of that visit, and as I listened to our president, my president, describe his vision for our country in front of world leaders and in front of the Arab leaders and in large-scale businesses, it created a tingle. My hair stood up to realize that we have a president with the courage of his conviction to make bold decisions, to understand where Guyana is going in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. And he has put together that plan. So as he described our country and why, as an investment opportunity for anyone around the world to join in our development, it was probably the most impressive result that I saw in Dubai. And I think Jerry would agree with me. He was articulate. He shocked people in terms of when they think of Guyana, you look at the web and you're 750,000 and you're size of Great Britain, but you don't have large scale population. But as we describe where Guyana is today, where it's going in the next 5 years, and we describe the fact that Guyana is built on democracy, transparency, and accountability, stable macroeconomic environment, it really improves an investor looking into our country in the future. So I want to commend the president. I was absolutely proud to be part of his delegation and to see the results that will come from that visit, not just from UAE, but from other areas. And we'll get into some concrete examples as we go forward. But yes, during the OTC in August, we had the vice president there. And, he spent a lot of time describing Guyana as a future oil state, a current oil state. And what was most impressive about that visit and what shocked the world is that, our carbon credit, our net zero emissions, we're going to be an oil producer, but we are building a model that the world has not ever seen before. Countries that either, had high emissions, they got oil, they're trying now to cut back, but we have a model in Guyana where we've got our forests. We can sell our carbon credit. We can put it on the stock market. We can take our oil out. We have an integrated energy plan. And so Guyana model is what the world is starting to pay attention to. We get to create a model that never existed before. So OTC opened the eyes of the oil investors and other investors to say, wow, Guyana is a market to consider. The El Dorado Basin, the northern Brazil, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana. We now have a corridor of opportunities that brings excitement to the investment climate. There is no other, and I can tell you, if you study the business environment around the world right now, Guyana is the #1 destination, is a new frontier. If you're selling a bolt to the oil industry, Guyana is your next client. And so between the models of OTC and Dubai, and given the fact that senior leadership of our government understands where we're going, understands the plan, have measurable programs that will bring results, it is bringing a confidence level. Today, I was at a South turning with Minister Ashley Singh, Finance in Minnesota, is Waldron of the Hyatt coming to Guyana. We've got many Marriott brands that are being started. We've got significant investments in agriculture, and we'll talk about that later. But what is showing that if you don't catch the president's vision today, if you're a Guyanese sitting in Guyana and in the diaspora, you will be left behind. This is the time that we're encouraging Guyanese. The president wants the creation of wealth for all of us. Whether you live in UK, whether you live in Toronto, whether you live in New York City or in Linden or in Mamaruba, it is our wealth to be given. So you've got to join the Catch the President vision, and from the investment. And I will end this comment that and Captain Gouveia is sitting right here, but the integration of the private sector, the engine of growth for a country, stepping up to the plate and says, we want in, we're going to deliver, is probably the most exciting thing as a government official we can commend. The first two hotels that groundbreaking in Guyana were from local providers. The shore bases that are being built is local providers. The largest domestic airlines are all managed by local providers. So the private sector has stepped up, and that's one commendable integrated approach that government is very proud of, to watch the private sector step in, take the lead. Our job is basically to facilitate and to ensure that the right regulations, the right bureaucracy is taken its cut, and then businesses can make money and employ people. And what the president has outlined is the creation of jobs for Guyanese. And if any investment coming in the country creates jobs for Guyanese, it's a win for us.
If I could just piggyback on Dr. Ramsaroop's comment there.
Jerry, please do. And just one thing which I want for you to bring out. People would say that, you know, in some of these business dealings, etc., that this is a private sector thing. But when the private sector is going on these delegations, of course, we see now recently, of course, since this administration, that we're having leadership such as the president and the vice president on these missions. How important is it to have leaders of this caliber holding this type of office to be on these missions? I just want you to bring out that point when you're giving your comment there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the long and short of it is, you know, you've heard the saying kind of being tossed around that Guyana is open for business, and I couldn't say it in a much easier and better way. It's not that Guyana is perfect or easy, but that we're open to business. And I think that the key part there is that you have a government that not only understands how things works, but they understand that things need to change. They are open to suggestion. They are open to partnerships. They are open to learning. And I think that is a very important part of any sort of leadership, is that they are open to suggestion and open to innovation. What I saw in Dubai, and I'll give you a personal anecdote. What I saw in Dubai is the president himself went out of his way to try to connect people. So, for example, I saw it myself. We were at a function with the Indian High Commission in Dubai, and they were introducing or showing a cricket legend, there. And the president went out of his way to find people. If he, for example, found out that you are in the fishing industry, the seafood industry, I saw him literally lead people by the hand to another investor and say, hey, you two need to talk, right? I don't think I can ever see, for example, someone like even Biden doing that. And it shows the level of leadership and dedication that we have from the absolute highest echelons of our government, that he is willing to take the time and you know what I mean, after flying, 36 hours to get to Dubai, non-stop events throughout the day, and then he is at a cocktail and he is taking the time to say, listen, you two need to speak, and I'm going to make personal effort to make sure it happens. We see that in Dubai, but we also see it here in Guyana, where the private sector is having unprecedented access to government, and they're open to our suggestions from the Chamber of Commerce level, from the private sector level, the GMSA level. They're open to suggestions. They have an open door policy with these organizations, and they are open to hearing the challenges that the business community is finding in its exploration to find its place in a global market. So what I'll say is that Guyana is definitely open for business. And as Peter mentioned, that it's a very fast-moving industry, and you have to be willing to participate. You have to be willing to learn. And you have the organizations like the Chamber of Commerce, for example, that are developing assets and resources for small and medium micro level businesses to start becoming competitive in the market. And then you have the government who is willing to dedicate the time to learn and then facilitate these deals. You really can't ask for a much better economic environment to promote investment in the country.
Right. So, Peter, when the average Guyanese will look at these activities and say, what exactly is in it for me? What can you say over the next 4 to maybe 5 years, or maybe let's say 2025? Dr. Ali's term in office for this period that he's been elected for. What can you say would be the outcome of all of this for the average Guyanese?
Well, I mean, if you listen to our president outline his plan in his inauguration, and now you measure it a year plus later, he started out with the vision in terms of the creation of jobs for Guyanese, 50,000 new jobs in his 5-year term, 50,000 plus houses, and with that comes the creation of wealth. So with that as a measurable outcome, he has staged the plan. This year we had a 383 billion Ghana dollars budget, which outlines significant infrastructure projects that the country needs as their foundation. We are talking about the bridge across the Demerara River. We're talking the bridge across Quarantine to Suriname. We're talking about the road to Brazil. We're talking about the Deepwater Harbor. We're talking about 2,000 miles of new roads in Guyana, opening up lands that we have never been able to get to. We're not cutting down our forests. We're protecting and defending the environment. So his priority sectors is about to converge, and the explosion is about to happen. In this year alone, our GDP growth will be, Richard, you correctly, close to 20%, 18 to 20%. The IMF predicts another 30 to 40% in 2022. His priority sectors now is looking at that the next phase as we bring an integrated energy plan, hydro, 166 plus megawatts of power, 200 megawatts of power of natural gas, solar energy, minor fossil fuel, and integrated energy plan. We have now opened up some sectors that wasn't possible before. The manufacturing, industrialization, agro-processing, large-scale agri-farming. The president made a bold statement the other day where he said the Caribbean market imports 5 to 8 billion US dollars worth of food, and he wants 25% of that market by 2025. And he is on his way. We have just seen the announcement of large-scale soybean and corn for our poultry industry. We are now going to be able to manage our livestock. We have seen dairy plants being commissioned. We're looking at large-scale opportunities in agriculture, aquaculture, agro-processing. We believe that Guyana is a BPO destination, a back office processing destination. Philippines and India has been known for that. We're the only English-speaking country in South America. COVID has proven to the Fortune 500 companies they don't want to travel to the Philippines anymore. We are 5 hours away. We are near shore. We are seeing a boom in that market, and government is willing to invest in that. In energy, we talk about integrated energy plan, and in tourism, we're voted #1 eco destination in the top 10. We believe the eco revolution will happen in 2022 as we build out the infrastructure. So in 5 years, Richard, Guyana, as a Guyanese, you will not recognize it. As I sit in my seat and I listen to myself, and I say, wait a minute, I sound like a salesperson. But the fact is, we're seeing empirical data with the GDP growth, with the salary increases, and the shortage of workers, multiple businesses coming in, profitable organization in the private sector. We are cutting bureaucracy. We're looking at every regulation now in the country. Anything that needs to be changed to ensure smooth operation, no bureaucracy, we're cutting out. So government is committed to the president's vision of delivering the wealth for Guyanese. Private sector will do very well, and government will ensure that our people are the benefactors of the plan.
Thanks very much for that, Peter. And it's very interesting that you mentioned His Excellency the President mentioning 25% of that food bill, because I could remember when Prime Minister Motley of Barbados was the chairperson for CARICOM, she would have mentioned that we as a region should aim to reduce our external reliance on food in terms of importing food into the Caribbean region. I think this gives a very good opportunity for not just the Guyanese businessmen, but also a Guyanese person who wants to enter into business, someone who has entrepreneurial ambitions, to be able to identify, look at these statements and be able to identify what these opportunities are. Jerry, I want to come to you on a question, particularly as it relates to business and business opportunities in Guyana. Now, of course, you've been around the business community for quite some time now. How different is it in the private sector? Maybe let's say if you were operating or in the private sector in 2015 compared to now in 2021. What are some of the key points and key things in the environment that you see as being different?
I would say one of the number one things that I have seen as a change is the change in culture. When it comes to adherence to standards, when it comes to adherence of international norms, best practices, facilitation of service, and dedication to safety, I would say it's a change in culture that I find is the most apparent difference between what I came back to, because prior to 2015, I was still in the military in Canada. So coming back to Guyana was a shock to the system. And I can tell you that from 2015 to now, I have seen a change in the corporate culture here when it comes to those kind of those topics. So that's the first one. It's the most apparent one to me, is that we as a culture, as a Guyanese culture, is acknowledging that customer service is something that we need to pay attention to. Facilitation of business, and dedication to the safety culture is a big one. The next one that I would say is the next most apparent change that I have seen is the hunger. We as a Guyanese people, we've always been hardworking, we've always been creative, but I believe that with this oil industry, it's showing a level of hunger in the Guyanese culture that I didn't see back in 2015. We still had a very for lack of a better word, a Caribbean mindset, very laid back. We definitely take our time and do things, and we're ready to go to the beach or the creek. What I find now is that people are getting up and getting moving, and they're taking advantage of the opportunities. We have a lot of young entrepreneurs that are popping up in the market. We have a lot of female entrepreneurs that are taking over. And leadership people, younger people are taking over in leadership positions, and that shows me that there's a level of aggression and a lot of assertion that are coming from the younger population, who are maybe even moving home after finishing their studies, or people who are working their way up the ranks. They see almost like a light at the end of the tunnel, and they're seeing the opportunities that the emerging oil and gas industry will have, maybe not only on the oil and gas side, but in the periphery services, in the hotel industry, into the manufacturing side, the agriculture, and so on. You're seeing a lot more innovation, a lot more entrepreneurship, and I believe that is one of the most significant changes that will drive our country from where it is now into the future.
Thanks for that, Jerry. So, of course, Peter, you sit in a very important office, the Office for Investment. And oftentimes persons hear about these large-scale investments. They might see a salt turning, they might see a large manufacturing plant, etc. coming. But for the smaller sized enterprises, the MSMEs, who are looking at business expansion and business growth. Um, can you shed some light on what are some of the incentives in the environment at this time for those MSMEs? Of course, we do get a lot of questions, not only on from a Chamber of Commerce perspective, but also from even the average viewer and listener. What are some of those incentives that are available to MSMEs, and even outside of formal or standard incentives? What are some of the things in the environment that really you would say to someone, hey, get into business at this time?
Well, overall, Richard, a number I want to throw out as I continue the conversation is in 2021, of all the agreements government has signed with the private sector from an investment perspective, tax incentives, 65+% have been local private sector business. That is a proud number. So when people think the foreigners are coming in and benefiting, I can tell you 65% of my signature this year on investment opportunities in Guyana through our Senior Finance Minister, Dr. Ashley Singh, has been in the private sector, local businesses. We've got another 10-20% getting into from CARICOM, which we're proud of too. And then the rest comes from the rest of the world. It will change over time. So what I want folks in the smaller middle-level businesses, there are incentives, no difference than what we would give to large investors. You have to study again the president's plan and how he outlines the initiative. If you look at the first phase, is significant infrastructure. Second phase is you bring energy. And as we look at, say, let me just pick one industry to give an example. Say we pick the manufacturing industry or industrialization. With cheaper energy coming to our shores in 2+, 3+ years, you're going to be able now to have textile factories. We used to have that in the past. Cement factories. We're in negotiation to set up our own cement plant in Guyana to make cement in Guyana. Pharmaceuticals. Guyana have, probably untapped pharmaceuticals that we need to get into. Precast factories. As you build these hundreds of bridges, you can put up a hotel in 10 months in a precast environment. We are in conversations with a precast factory coming to Guyana. We'll see that announcement shortly. Asphalt plants, paper-related products, metal fabrication, so many steel buildings going up. If you were in the welding, you could set up a fabrication plant. We've got companies doing very well. We're primed now for a gold refinery. We now make the gold bars. We make it 93%. It goes to Canada Plus at 99%. With our gold finds, with our move to underground mining, we now are prime target for a gold refinery. Much less waste to energy, biodegradable containers. So in just that one industry with cheaper energy, you now need to start looking out where do you fit. And I can go into agriculture next in a few, but the small business needs to see how they can feed the system. So what we're finding, and the government has done a great job in the way we contract now, our procurement. Instead of giving one contractor 20 miles of road, we may split it up with standards into 5 contractors. So everybody gets 3 or 4 miles to build. They now have to build to standard. We're able to compare the work. We're able to measure whether or not. So everybody now gets a chance. So I'm finding a lot of folks getting into construction. This is the big boom. Let's do it. Now in the future, we'll move to other components. So the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses, just like Jerry talked about, large joint ventures, need to figure out how they support the larger companies. And I close with this comment that we're proud of the private sector. I know with Roraima Airways, with Captain Gouveia there, they're looking at larger opportunities. They are in the tourism industry. We are going to grow exponentially in ecotourism. They're not just looking, they got to find operators to support there. They're not looking to do it all themselves. So you've got to be a feeder system. We talk about the agriculture market just a second, going back to the 25% of feed in the Caribbean. How do I get my product to market? Do I come in and have 3 cargo passenger ships doing a round robin in the Caribbean? Do I have air cargo operations with an ATR 72 plane dropping off 10 containers in Barbados every morning at 8 o'clock? Do I be the farmer that supports that container? What do I put? Watermelons? Do I put pineapples? And then as we move to cheaper energy, we're moving to agro processing. So you've got to think through that component. And if you follow the path, you catch that vision, you can do very well. And the government is willing to give land at concessionary prices for farming. We are doing concessions on industries. We did well on the tourism. We're going to promote that much more. So get off. I use a term that has been coined before by former President George Bush. Don't get left behind. He used it as child, don't left behind. I'm saying to Guyanese across the world, do not be left behind. Catch the president's vision, understand where Guyana is going, and figure out where you fit. And I bet you will find a fit in the new Guyana.
Absolutely. Thanks for that, Peter. Now, I want to underscore a point here, or have Jerry underscore a point before we head to a short break. Now, Jerry, when we speak about business development, a critical component of business development is ensuring that the workforce is suitably upskilled, that the workforce has the right type of attitude and cultivates a culture of productivity. That is integral in business development. What would be your advice, Jerry, as someone who is involved in the business environment, someone involved in the Chamber of Commerce and seeing these missions, etc.? Speak to the average Guyanese worker, the average Guyanese laborer, and tell them what you would like them to do to be able to catch this wind and take hold of this train that we're on to explosive growth.
Thanks, Richard. I'll answer that with a number. The number is 40 to 50,000. There's a study done that said Guyana is going to need 40 to 50,000 more people just to sustain the growth of operations in one industry, and that is the oil and gas industry. They're not even starting to speak about the agriculture industry or the tourism industry or the manufacturing industry and all the other industries that Dr. Ramsaroop just mentioned that are going to be booming. 40 to 50,000 more people. So what I would say that my main message to the person looking at this is you need to get up and get going, right? Nothing is going to be given to you. And in fact, don't let that 40 to 50,000 turn into 70 and 80,000 more people, because we as a Guyanese people did not take the opportunities that are being awarded to us. As Dr. Ramsaroop mentioned, there are tons of training programs that are being done. A lot of them are completely cost-free. There are a lot of incentive programs given out there for education, free. And you know what I mean? You have organizations like the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce that are running training sessions for free. So it's not like the opportunities are not there. I understand that that it can have a cost doing certain things, but there are so many grants that are being given out. There are so many opportunities that are being provided that all it takes is literally for you to pick up the phone. And you know what? You can call the chamber and say, hey, listen, I want to get involved. I need some training. And I promise you that we were going to do everything that we can to help you. So let's turn that 40 to 50,000 and let's keep it to 30 and 40,000, because we're going to have Guyanese people returning home who are studying overseas. We're going to have people locally who are going to be taking advantage of these opportunities to be trained. And I can tell you that the local content policy that is going to be coming out and the legislation that's going to be coming out from the government is going to be making these opportunities for Guyanese people. And it's just only up to us to take advantage of them. So in short, my answer to that question, Richard, is that we need to get up and get moving as a Guyanese people, and we need to take advantage of the opportunities. You know, I saw an article today that said that Region 6 is complaining. They're struggling to find workers to do their businesses. And I can't remember which media house it was, but that to me is very shocking. You know what I mean? We are literally fighting between the private sector and the government. We're fighting to create opportunities, and I don't like to hear that, you know, we're just letting it slide. So I would want to say to my fellow Guyanese who are here or even overseas that now is the time to come back, give to your country, but you need to get up and get going.
Absolutely, Jerry. Thank you so much for that commentary there. I mean, every time you pick up the newspaper and you look in the weekend edition, you're going to see Government of Guyana, Ministry of Public Service or Public Service Ministry, scholarships for this number of things. Every time you go onto the website, you're going to see something like gold scholarship. You're going to see, you know, the government going into doing what do you call it, these Coursera and edX programs. They're giving out grants and scholarships for those things. Want to advise the average Guyanese person looking at this program that if you want to be a part of what is going to be coming here in Guyana, you have to not only ensure that you educate yourself on what's happening, but you have to be able to upskill yourself, ensure that you are training yourself, ensure that you are sharp on the ball, because what we're going to be having here is essentially a country where it's an international arena or an international standard and level which we consistently have to reach. And the onus is on each and every one of us to ensure that we are at that level and keep it consistently to that level. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go to a very short break. Of course, we have to give our good guests here a couple of minutes to stretch and drink some water, etc. So just catch us back in a few minutes after we're off this break. Thank you very much.
Are you missing homemade food, snacks, drinks, roti and curries, or have a busy schedule? Then get your favorite curries and roti delivered directly to your home with all from one supplier. Come order your duck, goat, or chicken, fully cooked and ready to eat with dal puri or bus up shut. We also now have chicken tikka masala or lamb vindaloo available with regular naan or garlic naan. Don't forget to add your solo, icy, coconut water, or Nestle drinks to these delicious meals. Select your choice, and load your box and let allfromonesupplier.com deliver directly to your home. All from One Supplier has you covered for all your food. Plus if you need pepper sauce, curry powders, fish, meat, ghee, and so much more. We also have tasty pastries like pine tarts, cheese rolls, currants rolls, coconut rolls and so much more. Sales are ongoing every week, and your first order is 10% off once you apply the coupon code, Globespan24x7. Log on to allfromonesupplier.com today and purchase. Allfromonesupplier.com is your one-stop shop for all West Indian items, and remember it's free shipping to all US states.
Open. Now that's a word that hasn't been used much in the world these days, huh? Well, open is looking good for Dubai right now, and we want to tell the world about it. It's open for business, of course, and a wealth of opportunities for the future. And there's literally hundreds of doors open to some of the best hotels you'll ever see. Oh, and the world's tallest building? Yep, that's open too. But this city is also open for fun. It's open for happy, open for crazy. Even the slopes are open. It's open for a guaranteed suntan and a dip in its beautiful, clear, warm waters. It's open for the arts and Arabian culture that you really need to experience, which means it's open for bucket lists too. But if opening boxes is all you want to do, there's more of that than you can possibly imagine. There's out in the open air, across open water, or if you just want to hit the open road full of hope and optimism. This is an open society, so it's up to you. This city has its arms wide open, and they're open for you. You get it? I think you do.
Globespan Alaska Cruise is available from May 29th to June 5th, 2022. Enjoy an unbelievable experience with a 7-night multi-glacier cruise. Travel through a beautiful land on a world-class ship and visit the famous Alaskan glaciers up close. This cruise departs from Vancouver and enjoy a tour to several different ports. At the end you will also have an opportunity for a city tour. Call Globespan today to book your trip, with affordable payment plans available. In New York call 212-243-0865. Georgetown, call 227-1701. Berbice, call 337-4287. Trinidad, call 645-1604. Travel plans? Call Travelspan, serving you for 27 plus years. Travelspan Alaska Cruise is available from May 29th to June.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for staying with us. And thank you, of course, for joining us this evening. If you have not been able to catch the first segment, I'm here with Captain Gerald Gouveia, Jr., Senior Vice President of the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, a businessman, as well as the President of the Aircraft Owners Association of Guyana. I'm also here with Dr. Peter Ramsaroop, who's the Chief Investment Officer for Guyana and the CEO for the Guyana Office for Investment. Notably an office that facilitates not just foreign investors, but also local investors. I have to keep rehashing that point, Peter, because sometimes people think Go Invest is only, for persons who are coming inward, but a local Guyanese person can also approach Go Invest. Now, one thing I wanted us to do is bring the conversation a little bit back to Dubai. And I wanted to ask Jerry, visiting Dubai, of course, you would have been privy to a number of new technologies, various infrastructure developments, and of course, you would have, in visiting these areas and in observing, been given some context as it relates to the development. What are some of the lessons that you think Guyana essentially can learn from Dubai? What are some of the areas that you think we ought to concentrate on based on what you've seen in Dubai?
That's excellent. The story that I always tell is Dubai has no natural resources. It's not like they're an oil producing part of the UAE. That's the Abu Dhabi. Dubai is literally in the middle of the barren desert, and somehow they were able to convince world leaders, international conglomerates, me and Peter to go to Dubai. They convinced everybody to come to the barren desert and spend their money and develop businesses and buy homes and so on. And one of the biggest lessons learned and takeaways that I got from the trip to Dubai is, how did they convince the world that moving to a barren desert was a good idea? And this was with no natural resources. We are here in Guyana with agriculture, tourism, the Amazon jungle in our backyard, and we are going to have to do the same thing. So one of the ways that I saw that they did that is that they embrace technology, they embrace innovation. For example, they have one of the best public transport systems that I have seen in New York, in Canada, and Dubai. I must tell you, it is one of the most efficient systems, and it's one of the most user-friendly systems, especially being in a country that I don't even speak the language. It was very easy to utilize. Police stations, they have remote police stations that there's not a single person inside, and it's very easy to do these kind of reports and so on. So they're embracing technology to make life a little bit easier. Their investor climate is also very welcoming. It's relatively easy to open up a bank account. If you needed to buy a home, access to finances is readily available, and so on. And these are some of the lessons learned that I saw in Dubai. One of the major ones that I saw is that how they are dedicated to developing specific industries. They have what they call Internet City, which is essentially a free zone that's dedicated to the development of the IT world. So the entire zone, let's call it, is a economic free zone for international IT companies. So for example, the headquarters of Microsoft, Facebook, is in Dubai, and not in Abu Dhabi, where all the oil is, right? And it's because they created an investment culture, an investment atmosphere that's very easy to do business, and they promote the development of certain industries in certain areas. So now one of the takeaways is, how do we as a private sector work in partnership with the public sector so that we can have these PPPs, public-private partnerships, to develop these kind of free economic zones going forward. And those would be some of the things that I would want to see coming out of the Dubai trip.
Yeah, absolutely. Peter, anything from you to follow up on what Jerry would have said there? I mean, he mentioned, making business more making things more business friendly, etc., and reducing red tape. Anything you want to follow up there on?
Well, I support that comment about the technology, and I think our president was also very welcoming that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. If Abu Dhabi ports has the best technology to move a container from that ship to the truck to move it, why not look at the technology transfer? So the conversations went government to government in many areas such as that. One of the things that they have invested in is internal infrastructure, being healthcare, for example, security. Jerry mentioned the police, automated police stations. Our government is spending a lot of money in the social sectors. We are investing heavily in healthcare. You're seeing multiple new hospitals being announced, both in the public and the private sector. We are investing in security reform. Two key components in a need of a country to ensure that its population is well served, but also is secure. And we are moving into that arena very quickly. In 2022 budget, you'll see some radical investment opportunities in those areas. So as an investor in the outside world going to Dubai, seeing, 1 million people visiting in weeks. We had a story from one of the excellencies there of the royal family. He said one of his friends bought every high-end car in the entire UAE, the Rolls Royce and the Lamborghini, and within 3 months, because of the visitation, he would have paid it off. Guyana is prime. I want to bring it back to when we look at ecotourism and we look at agriculture, and I want to move it quickly in agriculture sector. Where are those opportunities? We talked about a 25% CARICOM bill we want to own. But when you look at things like meat processing operation, you look at our large-scale planting of the soybean and corn, we're moving away from sugar. Barbados just announced today they'll buy our rice. So we are already cutting into that 25% import bill in the CARICOM. We are moving into dairy plants. We need large-scale farmers for dairy cows, abattoirs, and packing houses. You go into seafood processing. We are a land of many waters. We've got freshwater fish. We've got saltwater fish. We have to move in how do we package that better. Areas such as integrated farms, the coconut industry. The coconut alone, imagine what's one coconut, how powerful that product of the coconut is. Just as the sugarcane. The sugarcane got sugar, but it can make ethanol, it can make molasses, it has multiple byproducts, energy. The coconut has the coconut oil, the fiber can be used for roads, the mulch can be used for fire, it can be used for mulch, or the shell. You've got all the other byproducts of coconut. So we are investing in large scale coconut farming too. We've got private sector going, expanding that market, the value-added components, the dairy products, as I mentioned. So agriculture is probably one of the largest sectors. And if you listen to this program from the start of before, I don't think Jerry and myself talked about oil and gas at all, as much. Guyana is, as we modernize our known industries using technology, using enabling factors of money from the oil, that's what will revolutionize, and why people say we are the next Dubai or we're the next Qatar, is they see what those countries have done. And Jerry said Dubai moved without any natural resources. Much as now, we're going to have money. We have natural resources. We have a president with a vision, a president that is a PhD in urban planning, a president that believes in his people and commitment to ensuring we benefit. And you put that together, right? Agriculture, I talk about the manufacturing, I'll get to some of the other sectors in a while. That is where these opportunities exist. So what Jerry and I got excited about, we got pissed off, sorry to use that word too, because we know we can do it too. and we want to do it better than they did it. And so we came back with a passion. And when you have leadership, such as our president, that believes and understands Guyana is on the move, he has an accelerated, aggressive economic transformation agenda. I can tell you, drive around Georgetown now, I can't remember what was there before. It's suddenly changing, right? And that is just for what I see. You go out and to Wales, where the gas plant is going to be, and that's going to be an industrialization zone. What happens next? It's our imagination has to take us there. And the Dubai trip allowed us to see what they saw, what their leaders saw that they can be in the UAE. Qatar is the next one. We know, but Singapore of the past. What does Guyana look like? And I applaud what Jerry said about the private sector and you said about Guyanese is, you know what? I sit in a position, I care about investment, I care about people coming into our country, but I believe in our president's vision. I believe in Guyanese first. I believe in one Guyana, as he has outlined. I believe we will achieve that vision. Economic will change our politics. We all will be at that wheel. We all will benefit. But ultimately, we need to take that step and join in and be part of Guyana's development. Again, I say it, don't be left behind.
Absolutely, Peter. Now, I know quite a bit has been said about opportunities, and we haven't even touched oil and gas this evening, and I don't think we'll touch on oil and gas. Maybe, let's leave that aside for a bit. But Peter, what are some of the sectoral opportunities and maybe subsector opportunities available for an average investor, for an investor looking at Guyana, or even an investor locally who has some money and wants to venture into investment? What are some of those sector and subsector opportunities available?
Well, I've gone through the manufacturing, industrialization. I've gone through a little bit of agriculture. Let's even just shift to technology. We believe in a new era of innovation, right? We have a chance to leapfrog, to jump the curve, to get there faster than waiting 30 years to move that. We saw that in Dubai with the port technology and other technologies. I mentioned the business processing outsourcing. We're near shore. We are English speaking. We have a brilliant young population that is very analytical. They pass 14 subject to CXCs and you can't beat it anywhere else in the Caribbean. So we have a very educated population that the technology arena can come to Guyana. Instead of medical transcription, for example, when a doctor records a note in the United States, is being typed somewhere else in the world. Guyana, we can move to that. The telecommunication service, Prime Minister, announced a year ago the liberalization of telecommunication. We're seeing a vast expansion in that industry as we run broadband across the country, as we improve satellite technology. You're going to see bandwidth move to the interior. So the technology, network management, software development, data processing. So I've gone from industrialization, manufacturing, to agriculture, to technology. Other areas, if we went to energy, as you develop the microgrids, as you develop the gas to shore, as you develop the hydro, imagine Guyana has the best sand in the world. We export sand right now for golf courses in the United States. We export sand into beaches in the Caribbean that have hurricanes. Our sand could be turning into glass. We could be making the cell phone cover for cell phones in 3 years as we bring energy costs down. So the wind and solar power, you're seeing that develop. We're expanding the solar energy across the hinterlands. So the energy upgrade, again, will change the way we believe. Jerry spent a lot of time in Canada. He knows Wayne Gretzky very well. If you're a hockey fan, he said, skate to where the puck is today, skate to where the puck is going to be tomorrow. And as you listen to this, and you listen to Dr. Singh's budget in February of 2021, as he outlined where the money was going to be spent. As we come to the end of 2021 and you saw where the money was spent, what it has done to enable the private sector, listen again to the 2022 budget, and you will see where that investment opportunity lies. And as the investor coming in, if we renew our dream and believe that Guyana will be the Guyana that we always believe it will be, we have the right leadership. Tourism is the next big one. Ecotourism. COVID-19 has taught us, I don't want a crowded place anymore. I want to sit out at Arrow Point that Jerry runs that says I want to enjoy the bonfire. I want to wake up in a hammock. I want to see fresh air. As we develop the infrastructure to see Kaieteur Falls, one of the most majestic falls in the world, as you're able to get there quicker and faster, you expand tourism in the regions. We've got natural beauty that has never been seen, theme parks, golf courses. With the hotels coming, we will be a conference destination. Where you can be an events planner out there thinking, wow, if I got 10 hotels with 2,000 rooms, what the heck, something is going to happen there. Let me look at how to become an events planner. How do I just produce tents? How do I get the goods to market? There are multiple medium-sized, small to large business opportunities in these priority sectors I develop. And I can go on and on. We've got a list on our website that shows 55. This is the 55th year of independence for Guyana. And so we came up with 55 investment opportunities that are readily available, that have incentives. It's on our website, goinvest.gov.gy. I invite Guyanese, local and around the world, and foreign investment and CARICOM investment to pay attention to those opportunities. Again, our job in government is to facilitate it. Jerry can tell us, we are there. If an investor comes in looking for a joint venture partner, we refer them to the chambers, we refer them to associations, the lawyers. We want Guyanese to benefit from this new wealth, and the wealth is being distributed. I opened a call center with Dr. Singh in Region 10 a couple weeks ago. I've heard that they have already hired close to 100 plus people in Linden for a new technology call center the government facilitated, and it's a local investor. We have also the largest call center company in the world, Teleperformance, in Guyana. Folks may not know, and I'll throw it out there. You call, you order something on Amazon, or you call Uber. We are in Guyana taking care of a lot of that business. So we are stepping up the game to the wider world. We are here. The opportunities exist, and let's figure out how to make sure everybody's aware of it and be able to be part of it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And you've raised some very interesting areas for investment there. And for those who might want more of that type of information, just simply visit goinvest.gov.gy. When you go on the website, it's easy to navigate. There's a tab there called Opportunities. Just click on Opportunities and you can begin to see where it is that you can invest in. All of the information there is available on the website. Jerry, any follow-up to Dr. Ramsaroop and the advice that he has given? And from that, perhaps give a little bit of insight as to the work that the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry as a private sector organization and a business support organization has been giving to business development.
Sure. So basically, to touch on it, I saw a Facebook post the other day by a good friend of mine, and he was talking about the effect of economies of scale here in Guyana. Unfortunately, for most of our history, we did not have the economies of scale to develop world-class products. We didn't have enough people buying our products that we could make the significant investment required to have the standards. And those who meet those standards came at great capital cost, and then the return of investment was very hard to achieve going forward. What we're seeing now is that the amount of people that are coming through Guyana, the amount of additional expatriates who are coming to Guyana, with more disposable income is giving us that opportunity now to take advantage of these increasing what they call economies of scale, more people buying your product. So we can now start getting into retail, e-commerce. I see there's a lot of these spaces that you can go and buy products that, would have been very hard to get earlier in our history, that you can walk into a store anywhere now and get it. You can order things online and have it delivered to your front door. So, if you're a young entrepreneur looking for a way to enter the business, there's lots of opportunities that give you low cost entry mechanisms into the retail world, where you can order things, for example, I just want 5%, for the business idea. It's a joke, but you can order things from Amazon and essentially resell it locally here in Guyana, and you can start to make a very profitable business for yourself. And there's some very low cost methods of doing that. That are available now that weren't available years ago. So it really just comes back to how assertive you are and how creative you are. And organizations like the Chamber are creating these opportunities for these small, medium, and micro businesses to take advantage of the increasing economy that we're seeing, of the higher disposable income that we're seeing in the country. So, if you have a business idea and you're not really sure how to do, for example, a business plan or a feasibility study, a 5-year look ahead, SWOT analysis, and all these very scary terms that you hear thrown around the place, the Chamber is offering a very low cost and user-friendly way of developing these tools so that you can go to organizations like Go Invest and say, hey, listen, I have an excellent idea, and here's my proposal. That we have helped you design and prepare in the Chamber. And these are some of the services that we offer for our medium, small, and micro businesses inside the Chamber. We also have lots of networking opportunities where just recently we had a mixer that we introduced a lot of the businesses inside the Chamber, because a lot of us can be our own suppliers in our own network. We have over 500 members now as part of just the Georgetown Chamber. That we can now have as clients and have as suppliers. And that now can be expanded to the Berbice Chamber, to the Essequibo Chamber, to the Lethem Chamber. That can now be expanded into the private sector, which includes, for example, the Shipping Association, the Manufacturers Association, the Aviation Association. So what happens is that we have the opportunity now that if you are a young entrepreneur, if you are an old entrepreneur, if you're someone who's been in business for 50 years and you're looking to diversify your revenue streams, or maybe you're looking to get into a new market, organizations like the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, like the CLBD, like the Guyana Manufacturers Association, and so on, are creating these opportunities for you to really explore new business ventures. And don't be afraid of terms like ROIs and SWOT analysis and feasibility studies, because the Chamber, specifically the Chamber, where we have those tools that we're willing to work with you to develop, so that you can develop or produce a business plan to the Go Invest office and to Dr. Ramsaroop to say, hey, listen, we want some of that concession land that you were speaking about on the show.
Yeah, and for anyone who may be listening, if you want to know more about the work of the Chamber of Commerce, gcci.gy, just visit the website and you'll be able to see. Of course, there's a generic email there, gccicommerce2009@gmail.com. And that generic email, and once you send an email there, it'll be responded to, and you can have your questions answered. Now, I want to just, as I begin to wrap up this show this evening, it's just part of what we were discussing, of course, at the beginning was trade missions and essentially looking at fielding missions, etc. So I want to ask both Peter as well as Jerry, what's upcoming in the future? Peter, what are we expected to see as it relates to missions outbound and inbound that maybe, say, the Office for Investment is organizing? And Jerry, same for you from the Chamber of Commerce.
Well, we have many trade missions coming in. We just had the Ghana trade mission in Guyana. I think tomorrow I'm meeting with the Qatar investment group that is in Guyana. The French have just sent a request that the French investment arm is coming into our country. So the input side, we are getting there. We are in 2022 going to spend more energy focusing on specific areas of investment and targeting particular companies, particular countries that Guyana is interested in, whether it's transfer of technology, potentially working population. We know the president has been on an agenda to ensure the diaspora gets first bite of any of our needs coming into Guyana that we will need. So we are going to continue that focus. He has set up an agency within the foreign ministry to concentrate on that, the diaspora, be able to give them the opportunities of where they can, why they should come back, what would happen when they come back. We're gonna continue to improve healthcare and security in the country, and ultimately, work towards that integration of Guyanese around the world. So trade missions coming in, there's a lot. Private jets of billionaires coming in, 1 or 2 investors per day coming in from countries. And ultimately, our local private sector is paying attention to the joint ventures. They're paying attention to what they can lead. They're doing what they can't lead, but we're looking for knowledge transfer. So it's a very well integrated approach. And I believe that, with our private sector focus from the private sector, from government, stable financial systems, we are a growing economy. We are a rich resource country, strategic location. We are prime for that integrated approach of both investors coming in and us looking out to the outer world of what we will need to ensure Guyana moves to the next step.
Thanks very much, Peter. Jerry, from your side?
Sure. So the good thing with the chamber is that we have participated in quite a bit of trade missions over the years, and through those trade missions, we've actually developed a lot of bilateral or tripartite agreements. For example, with the Barbados, Suriname Chambers of Commerce, we now have a tripartite agreement. So our members now can have the networking and the marketing between Barbados, Suriname, and Guyana. We have that agreement with Aberdeen in the UK. We have that agreement with Newfoundland in Canada. We have that agreement with the Louisiana and the Houston chambers, the Cuba chamber. And then very shortly, I'm actually scheduled to go back to Dubai because we've been invited to set up a trade office in the Dubai chamber and have that bilateral agreement between the chamber of Georgetown and then the chamber in Dubai. So, and then eventually we're looking to join the International Chamber of Commerce, which will have leadership from all around the world. So basically what you're gonna see a lot more is the exercising of those MOUs, which are happening every month. We have meetings with these different chambers to talk about business opportunities. Now that the COVID situation is becoming more manageable, and especially with there's a new airline that was launched, Inter-Caribbean, that is now flying around the Caribbean. It's going to make things a lot easier to get your products and your people to places like Jamaica, for example, that was hard to get to because you had to go to the States or Panama and then work your way back down to Jamaica. These are some of the things. You're going to have a lot more airlines that are looking to come, British Airways, Virgin, and so on. So connecting around the world from a cargo and a personnel perspective is going to become easier. And from the chamber, we're going to be exercising our bilateral arrangements with these multiple chambers to develop more business opportunities. So what you can see from the chamber is a lot more webinars, a lot more training opportunities, where we're going to be tapping into webinars that are happening, for example, in Dubai, led by world leaders, or maybe it could be McMaster University out of Canada, or it could be something out of Barbados that they're doing. So we can now start tapping into these different virtual trade missions or webinars, and then actually start having physical trade missions and training sessions coming to and from Guyana as we become more connected.
Hey, gentlemen, this sounds very exciting, and I really do look forward to all of this bearing fruit in the near future. Now, one of the things that I want to do here is just give you an opportunity to give any last or closing remarks before we end tonight's program. Of course, we have been chatting this evening for almost 1.5 hours. And of course, if we can wrap up by giving some closing remarks we would be well on the way this evening. Maybe we can ask Peter first.
Thanks, Richard, and I'm glad to join my private sector colleague, well-respected young Jerry Gouveia. Very proud of what he has done with the chambers and his private sector businesses. I'd like to end really in why Guyana. Why Guyana? Why do an investor from around the world will look at Guyana? One, we have a diverse economy. We're a resilient economy. We are not focused on oil and gas. We have a very diverse economy. We've got leadership under His Excellency Dr. Irfaan Ali, building a powerful economic nation being built right in front of our eyes. We're going to continue with double-digit GDP growth over the next probably the next decade. We're looking to build global partnership. The Dubai trip was an instance of where global partnerships become very important. We are looking to increase competitiveness in our environment, make government easier to access, and be able to bring our people into the perspective of how do they benefit. So why Guyana? Guyana is a country welcoming. We believe in business opportunities. We believe in democracy, as I started the program with, accountability and transparency. If you see every procurement government puts out, it's public. When we put out the bridge, put out the hydro, we put out the gas plant, it is transparent, it's accountable. We are making sure that everybody got an opportunity to do so. Why Guyana? Stable financial, economic, great people, and we welcome local Guyanese developing our country, the diaspora, foreign investors, CARICOM investors, and again, I end with, we have a visionary leader, His Excellency, that believes in measurable results, and we're watching it every day outline that we have to deliver, not promises. He didn't make promises to our people. He made commitments. 50,000 new jobs, 50,000 houses, 50,000 plus in many areas, an economy that will continue to grow. Healthcare will be resolved and improved, and security. That's his commitment to our people, commitment to the wider world, and I'm proud to be part of his team to join in to see Guyana develop into one Guyana, a new Guyana over the next few years. It's an exciting time. We are an exciting destination. God bless.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you for your contributions overall this evening. Jerry, closing remarks?
All right. Well, I want to say that, the number one thing that I would want to get over is that we need to get up and get moving as a country, as a people, and as an individual person. We have to take advantage of the many grants that are happening. We have to take advantage of the development protocols that are in place, the procedures, the help that's being given from associations like the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce, like the Center for Local Business Development, like many government agencies, for example, the many university scholarships that were given out by the Ministry of Education. I see that there are grants being given out to businesses. There are grants being given out to sports teams, for example, from the Minister Ramsaroop. So there's a lot of opportunity to get access to loans and grants and so on, to develop small business enterprises and so on. And you can also tap into the resources of things like the Chamber and the CLBD to develop your business plan, to develop your feasibility study and move forward. I would also want to talk about the joint ventures. Look into possibilities for joint ventureship with international companies as well as local companies. The word that I hear being passed around a lot is the word consortium. A consortium is just a very large joint venture between multiple partners, if you really to break it down into its core function. And if we as Guyanese people can collaborate and cooperate rather than try to compete with one another, we can develop small and large consortiums to develop these projects and produce things that can be exported on a global scale. So my closing remarks will be take advantage of the opportunities to get the grants, to use the education facilities that are offering these free and low cost methods, and then joint venture, even if it's with your neighbor or your competitor, come together and see how can we come together and develop a product that is now marketable on a global scale, and develop these consortiums in the private sector, and then understand that the government is looking to really engage in a meaningful way to develop the investor confidence and the facilitation of business here in Guyana. As I said earlier, it's not perfect. We know that, they know that, but they're open to suggestion and they're open to innovation to fix it. And it's up to us as the Guyanese people to really provide that innovation and engage the government to fix it. So I'm looking forward to an exciting next few decades, really, because the opportunities are amazing. And I really enjoy the fact that we haven't mentioned oil and gas specific opportunities, but more about the many different diverse industries that surround it that we are doing right now, and we have the opportunity to do it on a global scale. So, Richard, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak, and it's always an honor to be on any discussion or any panel with Dr. Ramsaroop.
Thank you, gentlemen, both Peter and Jerry. Thank you very much this evening for joining us. I heard someone say very recently, and it I think sums it up well. Guyana is a place not unlike others, without its own challenges, but the opportunities are tremendous. I want to echo everything that you all have said, particularly in your closing remarks. We are poised for an incredible growth spurt. We are going to be one of the leaders, not only in the Western Hemisphere and the global South, but I believe too globally in the near future. And the onus is on each and every one of us to not only be able to drive ourselves and what we do forward, but also the country in a general sense. I want to thank Captain Gouveia and Dr. Ramsaroop here this evening. And I want to say that I certainly do appreciate you spending the last hour and a half with us here on the Globespan 24/7 to discuss investment and business development. We certainly look forward to seeing much of what you have discussed here continue to materialize. I can't say materialize, but continue to materialize as we seek to drive Guyana forward and make the country a better place for all. So thank you both for joining me this evening, viewers and listeners. Also, thank you for being patient, having very interesting discussions in the comments segment. And I can say certainly we do appreciate you joining us here. So, gentlemen, thank you very much once again. And to the team behind the control room, thank you also very much. Do have a good evening all.